Hey, so we are live. I am so excited to have this episode tonight with you. I am going to be having a conversation with Nick Parker, and he is a creative director and CEO, and he's coming to us straight from Australia. It is 10:30 in California, and it is 4:30 over there. And today we're going to be talking about different communication styles that you can use while working remotely. And I do want to say, yesterday I did this, and I tried to play it cool, and I tried to make it seem cool, like I was a great host. But other than being a host, I'm also making sure that YouTube is doing its thing, that Facebook is doing its thing, that if anybody makes a comment, I can look at it, that the switcher that I'm using is also working. So I kind of I'm wearing a lot of different hats, and I need to make sure that my nose isn't too shiny. So on top of everything, I'm kind of paying attention to this. So please be patient with me. This is my second live episode, international live episode, but I'm really excited because Nick is amazing, and I can't wait to share him with all of you. And without any further ado, here's Nick. Hey, Nick.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much
How
for
are you
having me.
doing? Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for being here.
I think the distance means we have a bit of a delay going on, so if we talk over each other, I apologize. But as you're trying to be an awesome host, I'll make sure I'm a really shitty guest.
Fantastic. I think we'll make a great pair then. All right. So, okay. So when we talked last week, we talked about what is it that you and I should talk about that we feel like maybe me and another guest can't talk about. And one of the things that we discussed, we decided not, we nixed it immediately. Then the second, we went down a list of like maybe like six things that we decided, no, we shouldn't talk about any of these things. But then we
Mhm.
decided upon communication styles. And tell me, why did you feel like that's important right now?
Well, I remember it being whiskey. We were going to talk whiskey business. You promised me.
No, I got wine tonight.
I just had to throw the dad joke in there now, get it out of my system, all right? Communication is huge. Uh, I've been running a few businesses, and if you can't communicate to your team, then you will just die in the ass. It's bound to happen. I am not the best communicator. I'm a little bit introverted, and I get a bit awkward. And in these sort of situations, the word salad starts happening, and all the adjectives and the feeling words come out, and no one can really understand what the heck I'm on about. So over the last few years, I started paying a bit more attention to what I was doing, maybe wrong or right. But more importantly, I started understanding why my business, my team started working really well. So I brought that all down to the fact that people uh, communicate from different parts of themselves, right? So we use our head, we use our heart, we use our gut, and we tend to have a default, right? So I am very, very heartfelt, and so I use a lot of those adjectives and feeling words. And if someone is processing information with their head, they're like, "What the fuck is this guy on about?" Sorry, drop the f bomb. I'll drink a little bit more whiskey and I'll chill out.
I'm sure we'll only get more after that, which is totally fine.
But that made me understand that like I was delivering communication in the wrong way for a particular type of person. So I guess in this sort of climate that we're in right now, communication is going to be very important. There's going to be lots of miscommunication because, as I'm sure you're aware, we actually use body language to communicate. And when you're not face to face, it's hard to use body language, right? So
Yeah.
you have to be really, really conscious and considerate of who you're speaking to. So yeah, maybe probe me a little bit.
All right. So I really like how you said that different people respond well to different types of communication. I've definitely felt that as well. I am also very passionate, and sometimes if I disagree, I'll be like, no. And, whoever came up with that idea might feel very hurt because they're like, oh no, that was my baby idea. And for me, ideas are
So,
so cheap, right? So I don't take it very personally when somebody doesn't like my idea because I'll have like a million. And of course, 99,100,000 of them are going to be terrible, right? So I guess
mm,
because I'm so hard on myself, sometimes it's hard. Anyway, I want to get to a question, which is, how can you determine what is the best style of communication with somebody? Like, what kind of cues are you picking up from that person that let you see that maybe the way that you're communicating with them isn't optimal?
Yeah, so I've got a little bit of experience in sort of sitting in front of people and being able to read them. So it's not incredibly practical advice, but the advice is to pay attention to the way that they sort of respond to what you're saying. And so if you're a really heartfelt person like I am, we can probably get along really, really easily, really, really well. And I can say all the feely words and sort of explain my vision, and you'll be there with me. It's like, oh, that sounds amazing. If I'm talking to someone that is much more up here and they need to process the information in an analytical way and be more thoughtful and considered, then they're going to be like, I don't know exactly what you're asking of me. I don't know what you want from me. So for them to really process the information, I have to kind of lay it out a little bit more, like not bullet points, but like give them almost structure around what I'm talking about, right? You and I, if we're heartfelt, we'll go off on tangents. Myself and a head person, they're going to be like, oh, I got no time for this. I got no idea what you're on about. And bang, you start clashing. But if I'm considerate and understand that this person needs to process information in a different way, I'll slow down and go, cool. Well, instead of like me saying that edit needs to feel more warm, it has to have more passion in it, I'll be more like, well, can we slow it down and can we grade it with a little bit more sort of red in it? And they'll be like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Now, the other end of the spectrum is the gut person. These people just know. Right? They don't have time to think about things. They just want to get shit done. So they're very action orientated. So if I take a long time to sort of express my vision, they're like, cool, 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 but how the fuck do we get it done? Let's do
Right,
it. Let's
right,
move.
right.
Let's just do that. Right?
Yeah.
And so in building teams, if you put, two head people together, two feelers together, two gut people together, head people are going to like take way too long to actually make a decision and do something, overthink it. Feelers are going to be way too idealistic, altruistic, and they're going to try to go to the moon and back in a cardboard box, right?
Never.
Nah, nah, mate. And then the gut people are going to be like bulls in the china shop. They're going to smash everything and see what worked. Right? So
Yeah.
once
Yeah.
you once you understand how everyone processes information, you can deliver it in a way, and you can become a team, and you can form this like really beautiful little stable triangle where everyone understands everyone. So rather than just being super self-indulgent with how you communicate, you step back and go, cool. Well, Alana needs me to deliver information like this so she can process it and do her job better. And she'll respect me for it, and she'll appreciate that, and she'll do an even better job. And in
Yeah.
turn, you know that I'm a real touchy-feely type of person. Be like asking me why, what's the purpose? I'm like, I'm glad you fucking asked. I can answer that
I'll tell
question.
you.
How are we gonna do it? I don't know. It's just that way somewhere.
Wow. So okay, I mean, I can tell you that I pace myself in meetings. So if we're in a meeting and somebody asks, like the executive producer asks, all right, so we have the situation, what should we do? I will actually count to 10 in my head, like one, two, three, because I want to let other people in the room have an opportunity to answer. Because my immediate reaction is, well, of course we're going to do this because this is what works, and I did it, and I did this other thing, and it doesn't work, and I know you mentioned it, but you've never actually done it. I've done it. It doesn't work. So can we just skip to the part that it works, right? And that's not very good team building, to do something like that. So I'll just listen, and then sometimes I am assuming that I think that I know their entire thought process, but I don't. So very often by letting them speak, I realize like, oh no, and actually listening. So not just letting them speak just to, give that to them, but to really let them speak and listen. I've been able to see that I had actually been missing out on a lot of, I mean, that was in my 20s. I'm, in my 30s now. So I feel a little bit different about that. I'm much more humbled by other people's opinions that are way better than mine very
Yeah.
often. But I want to ask you, so that's how I've changed. I've changed by just waiting and letting other people in the room that might take a little bit longer to process the question, process the information, and then give their answer. I'm letting them go through that process internally without like railroading them. like I'm kind of doing right now in this stream. But I want to ask you, so that's what I've done to become a better communicator. If we have to move from a meeting setting to a quarantine, you still work on basing up on those cues and everything.
Now you did a couple of times there, but I think I heard you.
Oh, great.
So
Hopefully the recording is still good.
with how other people around you, you're asking how do you still pick up on all those intricacies, like what's going on, how do you read body language, all that sort of stuff, right? You got me still?
No, sorry. I just want to make
Oh,
sure that. Okay, it sounds like we are good on YouTube. I turned off Facebook because there's a lag between Facebook and YouTube right now, and I couldn't hear us. But no, on YouTube, it seems like we're
okay.
good. And if we're not, somebody can just send me a comment.
Oh,
But
good.
I can hear you, so go ahead.
So you're basically asking in this sort of climate, how do you interact with your team, like pick up on all those intricacies? Yeah, it's definitely slow down, because everyone will jump on a call and they'll all talk over each other and it can just be an absolute mess. Or quite often there's one person, the leader, who jumps in and goes blah, 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 and everyone's just expected to listen and then, cool, all right, let's go do it. And off they go, you know? So it's definitely time to slow down. I would definitely recommend having a little bit of like reflection time on who your team is, because right now is going to be the time where miscommunication is going to happen. Tempers will boil. Anxiety is like at its peak right now, and so everyone has to just like calm the fuck down and understand who is around them right now and be considerate, right? And if you can do that, you can start learning about each other. Like ask questions. Like, Alana, when I told you this thing about that thing, like, how did it make you feel? What did you think? Could I do it better? Like, well, actually, you confused the hell out of me, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing, so I spent a whole day doing nothing, and I felt too intimidated to ask you. Like, you probably wouldn't say that, but like, if you're a good leader, you can probably open up the conversation so people can feel a little bit more confident to speak up and ask for help and educate you on what it is that they need and how they need it delivered to them. And that's
Yeah,
really important. Like if you don't know someone, ask them. You know, don't just assume they get all your waft.
agreed. Do you ask them right away or do you ask them after the meeting? Let's say you're in a meeting with 8 people and you can tell that one person isn't quite kind of with it. Do you take a break right there and put them on the spot and ask them? I guess I'm kind of leading you with that question. Or do
Yeah.
you or do you then come back to them later? And you may not be putting them on the spot. You may be just asking them casually. I didn't want to lead that question. I'm actually curious. What would you do?
Yeah, like definitely not putting them on the spot, but you need to sort of manage the room still. Like, so even on screen, you can still see if people are engaged, if people are participating, maybe people are like writing notes, but if someone's not engaged, you might just sort of throw out a little question just to wake them up. You know, it's like that time that Alana and I said this, and all of a sudden she's awake. Back she comes. Like, and then you can bring her back into the conversation. So, Alana, next time we go and do this, like, how about we do this? What do you think? You know, include them in the conversation, bring them back in, because meetings are freaking boring. Like, I have
No.
8, 9, 10 Zoom meetings every day right now. And it's killing me. you know. And I am a bit of a people person. I'm an introvert, but I like being around people. I feed off, other people's energy, and I like to read people. And like this delay that we have right now is killing me because I assume you are bored as hell. But then the
I
laugh
am
comes.
not. No. Well, I mean, we doing a
are
miracle, right? We're talking live across the world, and a few people are watching, like a couple, like a handful. So,
Quite
I
a
mean,
few
it is
people.
it is kind of crazy what we're doing right now. Um,
Yeah.
So, what you mentioned that you've been in a bunch of Zoom calls. What do you feel has changed in your business from before the quarantine to now?
Yeah, so I've got three agencies that I run with different partners, and they're all slightly different dynamics. So I have to be quite adaptable. And usually in person, that's much easier, because you can connect really quickly and you can address problems really quickly. Over Zoom, it's hard. It's hard to read that sort of stuff. And like my role in the business is a little bit more emotional, a little bit more empathetic. Like, so if I can pick up on something that's not quite right, then I address it and we fix it, and we can keep moving forward. So for me personally, it's quite difficult. So, and my attention span's pretty freaking terrible. I'm, I'm like a 4-year-old. I want to play with all the toys, get all the things done. Like I just want to like do and like have fun. So if I have to sit there and pay attention to the screen that I seem to be sort of like trapped within at the moment, I get really sort of antsy. And so I have to like take a breath and make sure I understand, cool, it's not about me. I need to make sure my team are under control, they know what they're doing. And I guarantee my team would say that I'm not very good at that at the moment because I'm so easily distractible. But I am aware of it. I'm self-aware enough to know that, I need to put my hand up and say, yep, I'm going to go away and become better at this. And so I'm going through this transition like everyone else. Um, I pick up on a lot of like energy and all that sort of shit, which sounds really bloody airy fairy, but without having that, I feel like I'm not involved enough. So yeah,
Totally.
I'm struggling to connect properly right now. But what is happening is I'm finding myself having more sort of creative headspace because the world's kind of on pause, and I can lock myself in this room, and even if I have a bunch of meetings, when the meetings aren't happening, I can really double down and focus. And it becomes a game of productivity versus efficiency. Right? So a lot of us kind of want to be productive. Like we feel like if we're busy, we're being productive and it's validating. And I felt like that. Now that I have time to sort of process what's going on in my head, I can extract it and turn it into efficiency. And when you're efficient, you're profitable. Productivity isn't necessarily profitable. And so right now I'm going through a bit of a change in terms of understanding what works well and what is just busy work. And so trying to remove that busy work and making these processes way more efficient so we can get more done. It's more meaningful. And for my business, it's more profitable, but for my clients, it's more valuable. And so it's given me this headspace to think more like that as opposed to like juggling and being distracted by all the people that are around me. And so I'm actually kind of getting a lot out of it. I'm not going stir crazy just yet. I will. Like, I'll be an alcoholic in about 3 more days, but I'm actually like, relishing in it right now.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. What is it about the quarantine and wanting to drink more alcohol? I don't know what it is. I really don't know what it is. Um, you mentioned
Quarantine.
a lot of things that were really interesting and impactful to me just now, and now I forgot all of them.
It's
No,
fine.
I'm kidding.
Impact
It's
and
just
disappear.
it was just I was like my mind was so blown that now I'm like, holy crap, that's
Yeah,
amazing. Now I
sure it was,
forgot.
kid.
No,
Yeah.
no, I remember now. It's the creative mind space. I feel like I've gone through the same thing right now. Like I feel like I want to create more and I want to do more, and in a way I don't. It's just happening, and like I'm not even thinking about it. I'm not thinking I should be more creative. It's just kind of happening. Like I'm creating more, I'm writing more, I'm doing more, and it's honestly I just think that I don't have a choice of what to do. I don't have an excuse to call somebody up and be like, hey, do you want to go get a coffee or get a glass of wine, like, or do you want to go for a walk, or do you want nothing? I can't do any of that. So I feel like it's just kind of me in my home, And it kind of reminds me of when I was in college, and I went to college in New York City, and I remember when it would be like snowing and nobody wanted to go out, and it would just kind of be me and my art supplies. That's all I had in my room. So I didn't even have a TV. So all I could do was create, you know? And I feel like we have a lot of distractions now, but I use them, but I'll watch somebody's show on Netflix and I think, that's great, but what about my stuff? Why am I spending all this time on somebody else's creation when I'm not spending time on my own creation? So that's really, it's been a big change for me because I have so much time in my day. And it has kind of grinded on me that I spend so much time working. But what about the time that I spend creating as an artist, right? Because I got into this field because I was an artist, because I enjoyed as a teenager painting in my room and doing things for no money, no acknowledgement, no social media, no likes. I was doing it because I had enjoyment from that. And now, because, I'm 33 and I'm thinking, all right, how am I going to pay the bills next month? I live in Silicon Valley. Shit's expensive. My kids go to school. That's expensive. They want bikes and they want helmets and there has to be Elsa. So I am so motivated by business and money that I feel like with the quarantine, I've kind of come back to who I am as an artist. And all right, I love my job and I love getting paid for doing the stuff that I love to do. But at the end of the day, I still need to look at brand books and I still need to make decisions based on certain rules, which I love because it's like playing a game that has different constraints and how can we align to the constraints. But as an artist, you're not thinking about that. You're just creating out of your own volition. And I agree. I think that for me, the quarantine has inspired wanting to just create stuff without desire to get any likes, to get any money from it, to get any sort of acknowledgement, just because I feel like doing that.
Mm. Tell me what you were like through high school. Like, were you creative?
Yeah, I was very creative. I was
Yeah.
the I was the artsy one that was like making art and it was in like all the plays and was making the murals for the plays and I was always creating something and my jeans were full of paint and then I would go to the beach on the weekends and I would surf the whole weekend. I was like this like no makeup life artsy person. And then I went to New York City and I was special because I grew up in Puerto Rico and there's a lot of people like that in Puerto Rico, but like, in my setting in my high school, I was like the artsy one. And then when I went to New York City to go to school, I had this like entitlement of like I'm the artsy one, but then I arrived to an art school where everybody was like me. Everybody,
Mm.
everybody was the cool, laid back, artsy person, and suddenly I didn't feel so special anymore. Suddenly I was just the one more. But yeah, no, definitely in high school I was just like I would just create. I would paint. I would anything that I could get my hands on. I had a computer. I would animate on my computer. Kit pics. I remember, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And do you remember just having space back then to create?
Yeah. So I didn't
Mm.
have kids. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any responsibility. So all I had to do was create.
Mm. So right now we're going into quarantine. We're being isolated again, kind of like we were back in high school or something. So you have time to think about yourself. Because when you get sort of thrusted into the big wide world, we've come through this education platform that's told us that we can be creative and we can go and make money out of this sort of process that is creativity. But then you get shoved into the corporate world, and you're basically treated like a tool, right? And your value is what corporates will pay you. And that kind of sucks. And it changes you as a person. Like, I used to be this free spirit that had all these ideas and I could make anything happen and the world was my oyster. And now you're in this world and like, I'll pay you $25 an hour to make this logo. Like, yeah, gross. Like, that's not the
Yeah.
world that I dreamt up. But now that we can kind of just go behind closed doors again and just lock ourselves into this little confined area, as crazy as we're all going to go, we can get crazy within our creativity again. Get crazy within our creativity again. And I think what happens with these times in history, like a lot of creativity comes out of this. I think calculus was born from isolation. Right? These like incredible things like happen when you are sort of disconnected from the world, and so
Wow.
people are to both have identity crisis because they have so much time to think about themselves and who they are, and because their selves out in the real world and their business environment, corporate environment doesn't exist right now. They're like, who the fuck am I? You know? But this
Right.
is a good thing. This is a beautiful time for self-reflection, to learn about yourself, what you really care about, what your value system is, to really understand where you want to be. At the other end of this, you're going to come out as the same person, but you're going to have so much more understanding of who you are and what you want to be. And I think that's a really beautiful thing to have. Don't get me wrong, people are dying through this. I'm not trying to play this down, but like there's going to be some beautiful things that come out of this process as well. And creative people, particularly, are going to have a huge influence.
I think that just amplifying that, I mean, I feel like as creative people, it is our job to make something beautiful or to make something out of this worldwide tragedy, because you talk about the mind and the heart and the gut people. I mean, I feel like it's up to the mind people to tell us what happened when all of this blows over. What happened? How did it
Mm.
happen? Like, we need to reflect and we need to know how to avoid this for the future. And it is their job to tell us, to tell humanity, how can we be better? How can we be more responsible? How can we react more quickly next time, right? And I hope that they do that. And I hope that they paint it as numbers oriented and as grim as it may be. We need to know that truth. But as artists, we need to think about uplifting civilization, right? Because when people are having a bad day, they put a good song on, they put a good movie on, right? So we turn to artists when things get bad. And I feel like
Mm.
as artists, we can't assume another person's hat, another person's beingness. It's up to them to tell us. It's up to us to be kind of crazy and to think about the beauty that is happening throughout all of this, right? Because there is beauty, and even in a tragedy, it takes that one photographer to take that one beautiful photo that makes people stop and reflect about a war or about a certain situation. But it takes aesthetics to really make us stop and consider something. And I feel it's kind of our responsibility to be a little crazy and to let others be them and let them tell us what to think and give us the facts and give us the data, because it's not about ignoring the world. We need to know, like, we cannot be ignorant about this anymore. But I do think it's okay to be a little crazy. I think it's okay, and I think it's a good release to even have a good sense of humor about it. I mean, I remember I don't remember, I was maybe like 8 or 9, and I went to the funeral. Funerals in Puerto Rico are a big deal. The whole family comes together. It's a fun actual activity because you see your cousins, and normally somebody that dies is some like uncle that you knew as like some old person, right? Because you're a kid, like when you're a kid, and you see all your cousins together. So it's actually a lot of fun. And afterwards, there's usually like a little bit of a party to celebrate the person's life after the funeral, and it's actually really beautiful. And I remember that people used to make a lot of jokes. And I would tell my dad, like, it doesn't seem right to make jokes when there is a dead body there. Like it just feels wrong. And he's like, you should feel what you feel, but if it makes these people feel better, and if it makes them cope and go through the situation better, to laugh and to smile, then I can tell you that I personally knew that guy. That's what he would want. He wouldn't want us all to be grim and sorry. He would want us to plan, so and so's baby shower or so and so's wedding or so and so's quinceañero, and he would want us to like look forward into the future. And but if you want to feel sad, and if you want to feel like you want to really take your time to let this digest and sink in, then that's okay as well. So I think that the way that we grieve and the way that we deal with pain, we shouldn't fucking judge that. Just go through it. Just go through it. Just be authentic with yourself. If there's anybody you should be authentic with and genuine with, it's yourself. Like if you feel like
Yeah.
you can tell other people, then don't. But with yourself, be that way. And if I think that as artists, if we're inspired by this time and we're inspired to create and we're inspired to move forward, then own it and don't feel like you can't, or don't feel like you have to ask for permission, or don't feel like you need to wait for the world to tell you that we're okay to start creating, because we need to start creating now.
Mm, that was beautiful. Like, I hope you're recording this.
We are recording this. This is what we're doing, Nick. There's like 4 people looking at this right now.
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
No, that
So,
was really
okay.
beautiful. I don't mean to play that down, sorry. Like, I totally laughed in your face and I didn't mean to because that was actually really lovely. And I do agree. And I think now is the time not to necessarily grieve, but to like understand that this is a moment in time that you'll never have again. Right? You're never going to get this time back. And it might sound really, um, what's the word, inconsiderate to say, because again, like I said, there's some really fucked up shit going on out there. But right now, you've got time with yourself, with your family, even if you don't have family, with yourself. Like, learn about yourself. And like you said, it's okay to feel, it's okay to be a little bit crazy. And we say, I hate how we label creatives as creatives, like they're a thing. Like everyone's freaking creative. And now's the time to be creative. Be creative with your relationships. Be creative with the way you express yourself. Be creative with communication. I love what you said about the people who like use their heads. They're going to deliver us the information, and the people that like lead with their hearts, they're going to tell us how we feel as a society about this. And the people that lead with their gut, they're going to tell us what the fuck we need to do about it.
Right.
So it's a really beautiful cyclical sort of thing that occurs.
And I
We
think
all
that
have
when
a
you
purpose.
we all have a purpose, and when you understand your place in that, and it's not your place forever. You might be a head person today, and tomorrow you decide, you know what, I'm a heart person now, or I'm a gut person now. I know I've vacillated between them for sure, especially
Mm,
between heart and gut. And sometimes depending on the hat that I'm wearing, I'll be more gut or I'll be more heart for sure.
mm,
But I think that it's important to, wherever you are that day, to own that persona, because we will need all 3 to rebuild society. We will need that. And it's
mm.
okay to find the humor in it. It's okay to find the art in it. It's okay to find the grim reality in it, because
Sure.
all of those things are needed and necessary for humanity to move on.
Mm. Yeah, no, I love that. I think, again, circling all the way back around to communication, like, let people know how you feel and what's going on. If you can do that, you're not going to have all the all the divorces that they're sort of assuming that are going to happen. All the blow-ups. All the businesses dying. Yes, business is going to struggle, but you can band together, and I think there is something really beautiful that's occurring where businesses are literally just like reaching out and saying, "How can I help?" And I think that's a really important thing, particularly for any like creative businesses or creative people out there who are struggling for work. You know, don't go into these relationships, or don't put your hand up and say, "Do you have work with me? Work with me? Do you have work for me?" Don't do that. Ask, "How can I help?" If you can ask people what they need, they'll talk to you, and that's how you'll build a relationship. And like one day in the future, you might be beneficial to each other. But right now, a lot of us are just freaking out. There's lots of anxiety. There's no work. No one wants to spend money. So it's like, do you have any website work? Do you have any like logo work? Do you have any this work? Like, no, man. I don't have any. I'm not spending any freaking money. Right? So go out of your way to be creative and figure out how you can help people, because that's what's going to make you front of mind when the money comes back into the kitty again. All right? Basically, what you're doing right now is brand awareness. So build your brand, build your personal brand, build your business brand, whatever it is. Be someone that is actually helpful through this period of time. Otherwise, you're not going to survive as a professional or as a business.
I think that's one of the best pieces of advice that I've heard throughout this whole quarantine. I
Yeah, it's a
completely agree with
shame
you.
that I fucked it up with my word salad, though.
All right, we have been live for 36 minutes. So I want to end with our deaths because we you sent me the photos, we did all that homework, so we might as well. So, let me add you here.
You're gonna do
Um,
my dirty laundry. Cool.
yeah, that's we're just gonna end with this. So this you can see my clean laundry there. Oh, it's on this side. I have my clean laundry on my bed because I am in my bedroom. And
Mhm.
you were in the middle of a meeting when you sent me that photo.
I was. This is my business partner, Dale. He's an incredible videographer and a good friend of mine. He's got a little kid right now too, so I'm sure he's going crazy indoors. Um, yeah, but that is the state of my desk right now. I'm a filthy motherfucker, aren't I?
You are amazing. And Nick, I feel like I could talk to you all night, but let's end it off here for now. And then maybe we pick it up another night for another whiskey night. And then this time I'll have some whiskey, but not tonight.
You stay on the wines, I'll hit the whiskey hard tonight.
And Nick, anything else you want to say to end off before before we finish?
Ah, don't do that to me. Look, seriously, like, go easy on yourself through this period. Right? It's scary for everyone, and you're going to put a lot of expectations on yourself, but step back, relax, and you'll actually be more valuable to people.
That's amazing. All right. Well, there's nothing I can add to that. You have been amazing. Thank you so much.
Well,
And
thank you. My pleasure.
let's just finish while this is still interesting, at least for us anyway. Okay.
Cool.
Bye. Good
Thank you.
night.
Peace.